What's going on, YouTube? So last week I had the pleasure and the opportunity to interview my senator. This is the same senator that I got to co-sponsor the Right to Repair bill for Massachusetts. Her name is Joan Lovely. She is one of my customers, and I've done a lot of work for her in the past, so she was definitely open to having an interview with me. I sent her a list of talking points and questions just so that we could go over what the conversation was going to be about. Now, this isn't a typical interview where I just launch a question and get an answer. I really don't like those types of interviews. I mean, they serve their purpose in certain scenarios, but for this, I wanted to just kind of have a casual conversation with her and just go over the talking points kind of during the natural course of the conversation. I think it worked out really well. I think it works out better that way in this type of scenario because I really, you get to hear their true opinion and how they really feel, kind of unscripted. So without further ado, here it is.
It's a consumer, not just an inconvenience. I mean, this is how we operate now,
Yeah.
right? Whether I'm on my MacBook or mostly on this, because I'm out in the community, I need this to be able to work. And if it's not working, and I'm totally dependent on Apple, it's not just a consumer inconvenience. I mean, this could be significant, in my business.
Mm-hmm.
The business of my constituency.
Of course.
And so for you, as a small business person, this is, critical to you as well, to be able to service your customers. Because, again, as you say, if you can't get these parts, that reflects on you. You can't pass that off.
Exactly.
Now do you lose business because you're not able to adequately service your customers?
Oh, yeah. As of recently, I would say the past 2 years, Apple's products have become more expensive to repair. The parts, even on the aftermarket, have become more expensive, just like everything else.
Yeah.
But specifically, batteries and screens are my most common repair on MacBooks.
Sure.
MacBook screen is about $350 just for the screen, just for the part.
Yeah.
And I have to get an aftermarket part. I've had horrible luck with aftermarket parts for these new screens. And the problem is that if something goes wrong with that screen, I have to eat the cost.
Yeah.
If my supplier on eBay or something doesn't take the screen back, I have to eat the cost.
Yeah.
And so what's happened is that, yes, I've lost income because I stopped doing those repairs.
Right.
Those used to make up like maybe 10% of my yearly revenue, and now
You can't
that's
take
gone.
the risk.
Yep, it's just not worth it.
Yeah.
I can't just keep eating $400 every other week because of a MacBook screen. So I tell people to go to Apple.
Right.
And they go to Apple and it's $450, something like that. You have to
Right.
wait 2 to 3 weeks. Who can wait that long
can
without
wait?
a computer
Exactly.
if they don't work off their phone?
Especially in a pandemic.
Yes.
Especially when we are working remotely.
Yes.
Many people working remotely. We're totally dependent now.
Yes.
On our work world, on our devices.
Exactly.
Yeah.
I actually, in my written testimony, I told a story about, it was like the most anxiety I've ever had doing in this industry. I had somebody from Salem State, it was a student from Salem State, came here. They broke their iPhone, and their grandmother was in the hospital with COVID. They had they didn't have a laptop or anything, they just worked on their iPhone. They
Right.
weren't very, they didn't have a lot of money. And they were away from home, so it was right when Apple shut down. Apple shut down, and where else were people supposed to go? Third-party repair shops.
Right.
But Apple kind of seems to turn a blind eye to the fact that we all stepped up to the plate when they closed.
Yeah.
Of course, I don't blame them for closing.
Right.
It's a big risk for their employees. But somebody had to step up.
Right.
So I had this woman come here, and her screen was completely gone. She couldn't use her phone. It was disabled. And she needed to contact her grandmother to see, what the hell's going on.
Right.
And I fixed her phone, but I did it with an aftermarket part because I can't get a genuine part,
Right.
and defects exist. Now, this is something where if this phone is defective, no matter how much I can test it, if this phone is defective, it could potentially, she'd miss like the last moments of her grandmother's life. So it all came into perspective,
Right.
And I'm just like, holy
Right.
Jesus.
That was a lifeline. Her digital, piece is now her lifeline.
Yes.
Yep.
And all I want is a genuine part that I can feel good about.
Yep.
Okay, I'm going to give this back to the customer. They're going to be fine,
Right.
because you never know if they're in a situation. It's a very critical situation where they need their phone to work.
Well, think about it too. I mean, I don't have a landline.
Yeah.
Who has a landline anymore? And so we depend on these devices. Now, if I have to dial 911,
Yep.
for an emergency,
Yes.
am I going to be able to do that?
Mhm.
Now I'm depending on this.
Exactly.
Yeah.
And that has happened to me. I replaced an iPhone. It was an iPhone 8 Plus screen, and somebody saw an accident and was trying to dial 911, but the screen was defective, so they couldn't dial
They
911.
couldn't.
Thankfully, it wasn't them, and it was just a minor
Right.
accident, but they couldn't dial 911,
Right.
and what the hell? Because I can't buy a part.
Right.
And Apple will say, oh, third-party repair shops don't provide quality parts. No kidding, because you won't sell us
Right.
the quality parts. I would
Exactly.
love to give customers the choice. Hey, you can save money. It's going to be a little more
Right.
buying a genuine part.
Yeah.
But hey, I know it's going to be reliable.
Right. There's a lot of support for this bill now. So this bill has been in the legislature for, this is the third or fourth term easily. It's been more centered around cars and
Yeah.
the telematics of your vehicle
Mhm.
and what you own and what's proprietary and what gets reported back to dealerships and all of those algorithms of, hey, you need an oil change. How do
Yep.
you know I need an oil change? You know.
Yes.
Most people don't know that their car talks to whoever they bought it from, right?
Yep.
The dealership, depending on how old the car is. So we look at it in that context, but it's much bigger than that. It's also repairs to our devices, which is probably more important than our cars. Although our cars are pretty important,
Exactly.
right? Those are two lifelines for us to be able to live.
Exactly.
It's almost up there with water. I mean, think about it.
Mhm.
You can't live without water. We can't live without these either. So
Yeah.
I'm really glad to be that you told me about the importance of the bill to you, and that I was already signed on. We looked back and went. I said I should already be signed on to that because I supported every session. It's got a lot of sponsorship and co-sponsorship this session. So we're really pushing. And again, on the car side, AAA is pushing it. So they're a big leader in the industry in the vehicle side. And I want to dig a little deeper in who is pushing it on the tech side, because it's important to also have, obviously Apple's going to be opposed.
Yes,
So
of course.
we need a lot of support in that regard. So I'm going to dig a little deeper on that. But
Yeah.
it's the small business person like yourself who we need this flexibility. It's for you and for me as a consumer. I need to be able to have that flexibility too, because we live in a very busy world, and I trust you. I bring my business to you. Other people trust their tech person
Of
as
course.
well. They don't want to have to go perhaps back to Apple or stick this thing in the mail. In a week or two later, it comes back to you. What do I do in the meantime?
Yep, exactly.
Life actually stops.
Mm-hmm.
So anyway.
Yeah, it's just crazy important how they've become, and I think we look at it as an industry. Most people they don't see it until they need the service,
Right.
and that's when it becomes critical.
Right.
And I think more people, as we've progressed through the years, and where everybody's clumsy. I mean, we break things.
We do.
And I think now it's again, like you said, the support is starting to really be there because people have experienced this firsthand, and you being one of them.
Right.
You've experienced it multiple times with your MacBook now with the phone.
Right.
And for example, you're going to go to Apple.
Yeah.
They're not going to back up your stuff because you don't have Wi-Fi.
Right.
So they won't back your stuff up. And
So I lose the data from my last backup,
Exactly.
which is at least 2 to 3 weeks.
And that's a lot.
That's a lot of data for me because I'm on this a lot. I mean, I'm not always in front of my computer. I'm
Yep.
out in the community, or I'm out at meetings, and this isn't convenient for me. But this, you're right. I can see why when they hand over the phone to you and go, and they start to sweat.
It's a child. It's like you're handing over a
Right?
baby.
It is. I mean, I'm anxious when if I forget it.
Mhm.
If I leave and I go, even out to dinner with my husband, I'll go, oh my gosh, I left my phone at home. I know, right? It's like
Yep.
leaving your wallet at home, or it is kind of crazy, but we're just dependent.
Yeah,
now.
and we're not. The industry and the laws aren't treating it like it is.
Right.
That's so connected to us. Where I'm so proud of Massachusetts with the right to repair bill with automotive. I mean, we spearheaded that. That was the
Yeah.
first in the nation. That was
Yeah.
great.
Yeah.
And I'm hoping that we can recognize and then put the importance that it needs. That this is just as important as a
Absolutely.
vehicle. So.
It is.
It was interesting hearing the opposition. I watched the hearing.
Yeah.
And it was interesting just seeing the opposition. Of course, the lack of passion it's all lobbyists, I guess. But
Well, and they're doing their job
Yeah, of
on
course.
behalf of their client.
Yeah.
So I get that. And there are two sides. I always, when I meet with someone who's coming in to either support or oppose a bill, I'll ask them for their position, and then I always say, now what would the other side say? Because I want to hear it from both perspectives. I would say, in speaking particularly about lobbyists, a good lobbyist will give the other side exactly as the other side would say it.
Mhm.
No sugarcoating, no anything like that. that's when I know I'm dealing with someone who is, you know, rightfully so working on behalf of their client.
Yes.
No matter what my position is, you know, on a bill. So, but that's the process. But you know, and we need to know both sides and why. Why wouldn't I support this bill?
Yeah.
You know, where, you know, okay, I understand proprietary information. We're not asking for your proprietary information.
Yes.
You know, being able to buy a screen from Apple or a battery is not proprietary.
Yep.
It's a part.
Exactly.
You know, it's a part that you're going to replace for me.
Mm-hmm.
So I don't have to either mail this back or go to Apple, where they're going to probably say, yep, come back in a few days, right?
Yep.
You're going to be able to do it for me.
Exactly. There are some shops that do micro soldering, and all they need is a little 3-cent chip to go on your board, and Apple does not allow the maker of that chip to sell it to you. And Apple charges usually $800 to $1,200 for that repair, because they don't repair it. They replace the entire board,
Right.
and you lose all your data when you do that. I mean, all these people need is a tiny little chip. But Apple doesn't allow Texas Instruments to sell that chip to anybody except for Apple. So, I mean, in what I do here, I'm not affected by that. But that is a problem. So a lot of shops here do that.
That drives up the cost of business. You know, that drives up the cost to the consumer.
Yep.
You know, a 3-cent chip
Yeah.
that could be the fix instead of replacing the whole board,
Yes.
right? That's a cost to the consumer because there's going to be a cost, and that just drives up the cost of doing business. We want to be able to make sure that the consumer is going to be able to afford to be able to, you know, possess, own, and operate this.
Exactly.
Not at excessive cost because, for example, Apple is being proprietary about this 3-cent chip.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, yeah. So this is a part that I didn't know about that. You know,
Yep.
you know, the average consumer doesn't understand the back of the house and how it
Exactly.
works. But it's important to know.
Yeah, and that's what we're trying to do, just to try to like spread the awareness before,
Yeah.
you know, just to try to let everybody know it's like a hidden little industry, but it presents itself pretty big when you need it, when you need the service.
Right.
So, and
Right. Especially now, you know, during a pandemic, and our world's changed forever.
yeah,
You know, we're not going back to what we knew before, and we're going to be even more dependent. I mean, now I do, you know, 8-10 Zoom meetings a day.
Yeah.
I depend on this.
yep,
You know, this is just the world we live in now.
Exactly.
And that's how we're going forward.
Yeah.
So, yeah. So I'm really just. Let me just say something about the government process and the process of supporting bills. You reaching out to me and saying this is important to me, that's exactly what we need to hear as legislators, so that I know I can follow this bill and push this bill to the finish line. You know, we file 6,000 plus or minus bills every 2 years, right? We have a 2-year session. And not all bills get the same push because we have to hear from our constituents. So hearing from you, and I checked, there's got to be probably, I think over 50 people signed on to this bill, 50 legislators, and growing because people know the importance of this. So hearing from our constituents is the number one thing that needs to happen. If people will engage with us on what's important to them, then we can support those bills and initiatives going forward. So thank you for doing that.
Oh no, thank you for being there.
Yeah.
Thank you for listening.
Yeah.
And
That's what it's all about.
Exactly.
Yeah, it is. Government has to be responsive, and I know some people just kind of glaze over and go, yeah, no, they don't listen to us. And we actually do a lot, all the time, like 100% of the time. The number one thing that I tell my staff is constituent services is the number one thing we do. Whether you're telling me you're interested in a bill, or somebody needs help with unemployment, or someone needs help with housing, or someone needs a tank of oil, or whatever it might be. That's the number one thing we do. We answer the phone, we answer our emails, and we respond. We always can't make it right, but we do most of the time, and but we always make sure that we respond to people.
And that's what I'm spreading. And
Yeah, good.
Just try.
Yeah.
Just reach out, because
Exactly.
you can't. It won't hurt. The worst thing they can do is say, okay, no.
Yeah,
You
no,
know?
right.
But
Well,
the ears are open. I'm trying to just
Exactly.
spread the word, because exactly what you said.
Yeah.
It's a lot of people they're very cynical about
Yeah.
the whole process.
Yeah.
So yeah.
I know, and that's unfortunate. I will say we pride ourselves here in Massachusetts that we think we get it right a
Yeah.
lot of the time, but you know, everyone has their perspective. but we are responsive. And government is here to help. I say that all the time. I was talking to a young mom yesterday about, you know, a housing issue and tenancy and moratoriums, and she was so concerned because she had an experience like that a couple years ago, right, where she was really housing insecure.
Mm-hmm.
Now she's secure again, but she knows a lot of people who are housing insecure, and she just, I could hear the anxiety. She goes, you know what, I've never talked to a legislator. She goes, and you're Zooming with me, you're meeting with me. I said, that's what we do. And she goes, well, I never would have thought to call you. And I said, please tell people to call us.
Mm-hmm.
That's what we're here to do. So
I love that.
I appreciate this opportunity.
Yeah, I mean, thank you for it.
Yeah,
and it's a
definitely.
benefit that I've worked on your stuff before.
Yeah, and you know what, and here we are, it's Salem, it's October 22nd, it's busy, it's Friday, right, and you know, I don't live far from here, but it took me a few minutes to get across town.
Yep, before you head back to somewhere else.
Yeah, exactly, but all good.
And that's what it's all about.
Yep.
Excellent, I mean, that's, I thank you so much for swinging by, and yeah. And I'll just cut the interview right there.
Okay,
so
great.
And now let's get your MacBook up and going.
Yeah.
If you made it this far to the video, I really appreciate it. I really want to hear your comments down below. So please let me know your feedback. And I do appreciate every single one of you. I read every single comment. And thanks again for subscribing. Like this video, dislike this video, whatever. Just let me know. Thanks.